ninth edition of the India Mobile Congress. KPMG is proud to be associated with IMC over the last several years. As I see it, the impact of this platform, this event, keeps getting bigger, better, and bolder each year, much like how we're dealing with the AI revolution that we're all seeing. Before I dive into the session, I want to call out a few statements that were made by the Honorable Prime Minister in today's opening session, which I think will set a good context to what we're going to speak today. He talked about affordable data, and he said that the cost of 1 GB of wireless data is now less than a cup of tea. That's how the impact that this revolution is creating on data, making it affordable. He talked about the technology leap that we're making as a country, as India has transitioned from 2G, where they were struggling with certain issues, to now having great coverage, or in fact, covering almost the entire district in every part of the country for 5G. The Make in India technology. He announced that India is now developed and launched its own 4G stack and thereby joined a select group of 5 countries with this capability. And he talked about the growth in electronics manufacturing, where India has seen a six-fold increase since 2014, which has grown by 127%. Finally, he said that it's time to invest, innovate, and make in India. So, with that, I think I'm going to sort of just give a brief introduction. I'm Naveen Agarwal. I'm the office managing partner for the Delhi region of KPMG in India. I must confess that the experts on the panel are far more learned on the subject than me. I come from a finance background, so I'm a chartered accountant. I deal with taxes, but I can say that having grown up doing taxes, as a tax professional now, I cannot excuse myself from being away from technology anymore, right? In fact, tax is also seeing huge transformation with technology, and therefore my curiosity is gone up much more about this session as we move from AI to Gen AI to agentic AI and now Edge AI. I came across an interesting signboard when I was driving down from Jaipur to Delhi highway. Very unlikely place to see this signboard. It was next to a Japanese auto component manufacturing plant. And it says that Edge AI brings intelligence closer to where life happens, not in the cloud, but in the moment. And that's what's happening today. It's going to be an established fact that Edge AI is going to be at the edge, not just a technical shift, but a mindset shift from processing to perceiving. If you look all around us in different sectors, whether you look at agriculture, whether you look at smart manufacturing, healthcare, and logistics, Edge AI is finding its place in every sector. And the epicenter of all the action happens to be in India. Our digital economy is growing close to 2x the overall economy growth, contributing 13.4% of the overall GDP and projected to reach 20% by 2030. For India, unlocking the potential of Edge AI means leapfrogging traditional barriers, connecting dreams, and creating digital solutions for every Indian, from the smallest farm to the largest factory. Without further ado, let's start with the panel discussion. We have a very interesting lineup of speakers who are going to decode the world of AI, edge that will bring speed and purpose together to unlock unprecedented value across the chain. I must say that while we are sitting in Delhi, all of these people have traveled from all over the world. We have Farjola who's traveled from Bangkok. We have our friend, is it Abhishek? No, who's traveled? Abhishek? No, sorry. Uh, Amitabh, who's traveled from San Diego. Shrikant, who's traveled from Mumbai. And Abhishek Sumit, who's traveled from Bangalore, right? So it's across the geography representation. And Abhishek, where have you joined from? Gurgaon. Okay. Okay. So a brief introduction of each of the panelists, and I request them to come as I introduce them. Amitabh is a co-founder and chief operating officer of TrueMind Software System, an innovative engineering solutions company which is at the forefront of digital and connected world. He steers the company's operational excellence and strategic direction across high growth domains like 5G, IoT, AI, ML, and advanced analytics. Amitabh, can we have you on the stage, please? We have Shrikant Mehta, who's the head of Telecom Business Development, India and SAARC at Amazon Web Services. He's driving the industry's adoption of cloud and Gen AI, collaborating very closely with operators, network equipment providers, ISPs, and system integrators to architect and deploy the next generation of digital telecom on AWS. Shrikant, can we have you on the stage? Parjola Pico is the head of strategy at market area Southeast Asia, Oceania, and India at Ericsson. She drives Ericsson's digital services, products, and services strategy, has held several positions within research and development before joining the Chief Technology Office as a technology strategist for media-focused products, technology, and services across all of Ericsson's business areas. Parjola, can you have it on the stage? Abhishek Biswal is the Chief Business Officer, Digital Services at Bharti Airtel. He's driving transformative growth and innovation across the company's digital portfolio. He's at the forefront of expanding the company's digital services, overseeing critical growth areas including IoT, cloud, and security. Abhishek, can we have you on the stage? And Sumit Goswami is the Vice President Engineering of Qualcomm with over 2.5 decades of experience in the semicon industry and currently leads the Central Solutioning and Operation Groups at Qualcomm, which encompasses silicon engineering, customer technical interface, and operations. He also chairs the Qualcomm India Academic Council. Sumit, can you have you on the stage? Okay, good afternoon, lady and gentlemen. Thank you. I promise all the participants that you're going to keep them at the edge of their seat, right? So we're going to start with the very foundation, right? And I think we're going to dabble across multiple themes, ranging from infrastructure to partnerships to looking at return on investments and ethics and all of that. But let's start with the first theme, which is around infrastructure, integration, and scale. And as we all know, Edge AI depends on a robust backbone. And we've already seen in the context of India, there's been a rapid rollout of 5G, the rise of low power hardware, and emergence of hybrid edge computing architectures, all of which are responsible for laying the foundation. So my first question actually is pointed both towards Farjola and Abhishek. With India being one of the fastest country with the rollout of 5G, how do you see this infrastructure enabling edge AI at scale, particularly in bridging the urban-rural divide and unlocking new industrial use cases? So Farjola, would you like to comment first?
Thank you very much. I think it's a very valid question, right? And I mean, India is impressive, the fastest rollout in the world. And you asked me if I had been here before, right? And I have, and it's impressive to see the change. But what about 5G infrastructure driving then the edge AI? And I believe when it comes to 5G, it's really that connective tissue, so to say, to really drive edge AI from pilots to mainstream and industrial adoption. So let me try and break this down, right? When we look into the 5G infrastructure, it's all about ultra reliable and ultra low latency type of communications, right? So how does this really help edge AI? It's all about, when you think about urban spaces, hospitals, emergencies, logistics, ports, and really making sure when you really enable that edge AI can take those decisions at the right time in the real time. And the same applies also for the rural areas, right? Whether it's in agriculture, precision agriculture, where it's about irrigation systems, emergency services in the rural area. So it's really important when it comes to ultra-reliable communications. Another point, it's all about really the loads of data that comes with IoT and mission-critical type of communications, right? The data offloading. So where should the processing of the data really happen? And would you really take that all the way to the cloud, or would you actually do that at the edge? So really important to enable then the edge AI where is needed for both urban as well as the rural spaces. 5G standalone enables network slicing for dedicated networks, right? So if you think about industries in the urban areas, it's really about the quality of service. And I think this is where it makes sense to think about edge AI in different industries, whether that's in smart factories, whether that's in the urban areas for certain, well, beyond agriculture, right, in that way. And then last but not least, I would say it's also about connecting the unconnected, really about the digital inclusion. And I think 5G has enabled 5G fixed wireless access. And this goes beyond the urban areas, but the airports and the ports and the manufacturing goes down to the rural areas to bridge that digital inclusion. So I think in a nutshell, 5G infrastructure really enables and amplifies, I would say, the edge AI. And I guess you might complement it in this case. I pass it on.
No, thank you. I think, see, I see this world slightly simpler, right? In the earlier world, we used to take data to compute, right? Get some insight out, come back with that insight, and act on it. This is how we all build systems. I think with the amount of data we now produce, it's no longer economical to do this, right? So we have to bring compute as close to data as possible. Now, when you look at really distributed systems, it's not easy to bring compute to every last mile, right? It's not, there is a cost to that, right? Each device cannot have the kind of compute we need, which is where I think is the sweet spot of 5G, which is, can we take data not that far off, but to the edge, right? And can we build out an ecosystem where this works, right? And I think for us at Airtel, and we saw this, we were running an experiment with a small robot that runs in a farm, right? It looks at each one of the samplings and decides whether this is dry, needs water, if the leaves are wilting and they want to put pesticide on it, etc. Right? Now, where do you want to take this data? Where do you want to send these images for processing? How much do you want to process at the edge versus how do you take that back, right? I think overall scale will come when an ecosystem comes together to say the last mile device, the connectivity, as well as edge compute locations opening up for startups to build tech around it, right? So I think at the foundation layer, a telecom operator, a device manufacturer, and an edge cloud player needs to come together to really create that scale. And we are proud of saying we have 200,000 base stations, right? Do we also have 100,000 or 50,000 edge locations available for people to port their data or not? We don't have that yet, right? So it's still early days, but I think very encouraging design in place.
So connecting the unconnected and taking compute to the data and moving data to the edge. I think that's what I take away from the first part. Let's move to the clearing some of the myths. As AWS, we always thought AWS was all about cloud infrastructure, and the conversation is today about hybrid edge cloud architectures. And AWS has been in the forefront as far as, especially as far as cloud infrastructure is concerned. I would like to understand, your role as far as Edge AI is concerned. How are you helping Indian businesses architect scalable, low latency AI systems that balance performance and cost?
Okay, I hope I'm audible. Thanks. So, yeah, very good question, and I think that's a perception which we do face in multiple forums. Let me start with a very simple example of what Edge AI actually means. Right now, I'm speaking with you on this mic in English. Now, if I want a real-time translation of what I'm speaking from, let's say, English to French, I do not have the luxury to send this data to the cloud, process it, and then convert to French, and then transmit it to you. Very simple example. Taking it forward further, if I want to run some correlation on the data which I am quoting in this conversation, I cannot have that much amount of information on this mic, which is an edge device, right? So I need to correlate it somewhere in the cloud and then get an output and feed it to the audience. So At AWS, we look at cloud as a multi-layered architecture, which means you have services from the data center to the device. So we do have edge solutions like Outpost, which allow you to process your workloads in the data center of the customer. We have solutions called local zones, which are smaller versions of data center but closer to the customer. And we have solutions like the region or the cloud, which most of you are aware of. Okay. Now, once we move from the cloud, this multi-layered cloud, which is called as cloud continuum, the important part is the services which are required to enable the processing at the edge. So we have something which is called as an IoT green grass, which enables you to run LLM on a small IoT device with very limited processing power and compute. Similarly, we have SageMaker, which enables you to monitor and secure the edge processing for the devices. So this covers the part of the services. Lastly, the most important part is when you have such a multi-layered architecture, you need manageability. So the end-to-end manageability is enabled by things like CloudWatch or System Monitor, which gives you a single console to manage your end-to-end ecosystem. So the idea is you run the workload where it needs to run, whether it's on the data center, whether it's on the device, or whether it's in between.
Thank you. Thank you for clarifying that it's all about a multi-layered environment across multiple platforms, whether it's on the cloud or whether it's on the device. The conversation on AI and on edge AI will not be complete without talking about hardware and hardware that is efficient and powerful. And Qualcomm, of course, is one of the market leaders in this domain, and you're certainly, Sumit, in that position as a market leader. You're driving a lot of innovation in chipsets and edge devices, in supporting deployment of edge AI across various platforms. And that runs through from farms to factories. So maybe if you could shed some more light as to what innovation we're seeing out there.
Yeah, sure. So the definition of edge AI, like what Srikant was saying, right? The processing power we are taking towards the left. What we used to do before is that we consume data, the data goes to cloud, process and come back. Yeah, of course, I know my friends are here who are making ultra reliable computing, low latency computing. But privacy is another thing, right? The security is another aspect. So more and more, the innovations what we are doing at Qualcomm and some of the other companies like that is actually doing some shift left and doing some of the computations right on the device what you are using. Take this example of what Srikant was saying, that if tomorrow I can bring the right amount of computing in this particular microphone which does the translation, it will be a great solution. So what do we need is that this need to be smart enough. That means hardware need to be smart enough. Second thing, the battery need to hold. That means ultra low power device I need to make. And finally, the AI models, because it's all about AI, the AI models need to run on it, right? So at Qualcomm, that's precisely the work what we are doing. We believe in a concept called hybrid AI. So what hybrid AI means is that certain models, which are small in nature, can run on the device what you are using. For one example is that nowadays the smart glasses are there, right? Which you are wearing, Navin. Some of the smart glasses can run about 1 million parameter model right on the glass itself without connecting to the cloud or connecting to the edge. If you take the phone, the latest Qualcomm 8 Elite Gen 5, what we have released, about 10 to 20 billion parameter model running in the airplane mode. So we are not going there. There are a lot of use cases where the privacy really matters. Some of the quick analysis and the quick AI analysis required on that. Some of the models need to give very fast solution, and that's where we are working on. Now, where are the innovation coming? In two fronts. Number one, our software teams, they are fine-tuning our algorithms to make sure that the smaller size model comes in with scale across all the different devices. And the second thing is that if we really need to run that model on that hardware platform, that need to be smart enough, and I should not burn the battery very fast. So that's where the second, people like me and my team, what we are doing is that, doing that innovations on that, on a given chipset, what is powering this particular edge AI devices, how smart it can be by taking more and more AI computations over there without burning any additional cost or power. So these are the two areas where we are mostly focusing on. If you look at the spectrum few years back versus now, there is a tremendous changes happen in terms of the models what we are running, in terms of the power and thermal envelope of some of those chipsets. And thirdly, the use cases, what evolved, right? Abhishek was talking about that farm where the one robot is going and detecting. Now a lot of this kind of decision making can happen right on the edge AI. You don't need to go all the way to the cloud and make the decisions and come back. So that's where all the innovations right now.
So all I can make out is my Meta devices are going to be far more useful than they are today, right?
Absolutely, we are working on it.
Okay, so we are living in a world of hybrid use cases across different domains, hybrid edge architecture, and hybrid devices, right? That's the world that we are living in. Let me talk about how to move away from legacy systems. And there's whole element of interoperability across legacy systems, across multiple vendor platforms, and that continues to remain a barrier. So, from an industry perspective, what are some of the technical and strategic steps that need to be taken to overcome some of these integration challenges and accelerate the adoption of Edge AI? So, my question here is to Farjola and Amitabh. If you can comment, please.
Thank you. I think it's an excellent question, actually, because if you think a little bit about the two biggest hurdles when it comes to Edge AI, it's really about the interoperability, right? It's about the legacy systems and as well as, the multi-vendor environment. I think one way to overcome such hurdles, though, I think it's really important to think a little bit about the adoption of common frameworks when it comes to that and standards. I think it's super important that we actually adopt that across the industry to be able to enable the interoperability of the data. Otherwise, it will be very difficult to build any LLMs or any knowledge systems. So, to really have those smart devices to be able to take any decisions, right, on their own. So I think interoperability really requires the adoption of these common frameworks. I think a second point, and it was touched a little bit by Sumit here, it's the importance of the security and the data governance, right? I will not dwell on security. I think when it comes to security, it's really important on data and the value of that. But when it comes to the data governance, I think it's super important as well to really understand as to how do we manage this in a multi-vendor environment? What kind of policies do we have to be able to adopt? And I think this is important to work as an ecosystem. I think it's trying to really look in co-creating the blueprints to be able to enable that interoperability and the governance of the data. I mean, sometimes the device the data is not even allowed to let the device, right? So how do you manage that? How do you manage to be able to let the data go from the device in a secure way and really integrate? So I think it's really, these are some of the elements, I would say, in terms of common frameworks of interoperability and overcoming through the security and the governance of the data for Edge AI. And I think it's this kind of players to be able to create that ecosystem and to create that blueprint for Edge AI.
Thank you, Farjola. Amitabh, you want to come?
Thank you. I'll take this question, from a more of a engineering perspective, because so the way I look at your question is how I can run my model on different hardware from an interop point of view. I want some hardware, some model which I can use multiple places. So there are open platforms like ONNX and stuff where you can tune your model, where you can train your model, which can be used on multiple hardwares. So we should promote those kind of platforms so that it is very interoperable system. We can switch the AI models and hardware easily. I know it's super difficult currently. We are stuck at every step of those things. So those are the things like open models where we can easily port different models to different hardwares, and we should promote that environment. And secondly, from a development point of view, all the interfaces to the edge device should be standardized. or all the APIs to the devices should be standardized. So that again, it's easily portable, it's easily integratable to legacy or new things. And similarly, I was just thinking of the data formats for different industry verticals should be standardized, metadata should be standardized as much as possible. So that you can easily put things across models, across hardware and things. And other thing is we have to retrofit eventually. The legacy has to go eventually. I think we cannot live with it for very long because things are moving so fast. So we should have that plan in our mind too, that legacy will change. And I think it's not going to be that expensive eventually to do that. And finally, the standard ways of certifications and compliances and interops, that is one thing which we have to bring together as industry, as all the industry collaborations and stuff. So from developing the end solution, this is very critical, very close to our mind because we work on it every day. And all these things, open source models, standardization of interfaces, certifications, and retrofitting eventually.
So I'll pick up your last point, which is about collaboration. And while infrastructure is evolving very rapidly, we now need to move from capacity to impact. And the impact can be best created through innovation, through collaboration, and the entire partner ecosystem coming together, right? So with that, and this is our story which is driven by multiple players. It's got the startups, it's got the telcos, and it's got supported by the global technology players as well, right? And as we build scale across the entire ecosystem, you need to bring hardware, software, and connectivity together to build affordable, scalable solutions. So with that being said, let me move to Amitabh as a first, and you're sort of moved from a hardware company into a startup ecosystem. And, uh, and startup is known for its unique India-related constraints, right, and challenges. So what technical approaches, in your view, are enabling edge AI to deliver, again, efficiently, low-cost hardware across diverse markets and diverse use cases?
So if you talk about purely technical, and especially in the hardware which is, has limited processing power, and, now my friends at Qualcomm, they are coming up with all these chips now, going from 12 tops to now they say 100 tops and all those things. So, but still, we have to, especially on the edge solutions, have the limitation of processing power. We have the limitation of power. We have the limitation of all those things. So uh, for that, the technical challenges are how to reduce all these big models to smaller models. And there are some standard techniques we use, which is called pruning. One is called quantization, and the new thing is like the generic word for this is SLMs, small language models. And we use a technique called knowledge distillation, where for a specific application, you reduce the model and try to retain the knowledge for what you need. And those smaller models, SLMs, can be used on a cheaper solution. So those are the technical things which we use to enable edge solutions. And secondly, it is not just the running the AI model. For end-to-end solutions, you have to integrate so many other things in the system. You have to integrate UIs. You have to integrate need these chatbots. You have to integrate so many other things. Identity management. You have to integrate it with some IoT platform. So for all those things, I think we should have some, what we do is we call accelerators. So we have almost pre-made solutions, which we just integrate to make the complete end-to-end solution. So again, two things: standard, reducing the models to run on smaller devices, and then all the other things which we need to make the complete end-to-end solution, which we call accelerators, And if you guys come to our, there is an ad here, to our booth, we'll tell you how we do it, these things, we have a lot of examples there.
Okay, so that was an engineering perspective to this.
That was
Let's move to an entrepreneurial perspective to it, coming to Shrikant from an AWS perspective, where you have been at the forefront of driving all the innovation in digital native startups. So, as some of these startups try scalable, as some of these startups start to build scalable edge AI solutions, how you are supporting the whole principles of affordability, enterprise readiness, and so on and so forth.
Sure. So very relevant question. In fact, today morning when we saw the session by the Prime Minister, the prelude to the Prime Minister's speech was the whole host of startups in the various part of telecom, radio, and the technology piece. It's very encouraging to see so many startups coming up from India. Now, in the space of edge AI, there is a dual challenge which startups will face. So one is the use cases are very new, and we do not know which use case will actually materialize or become real. Second, the cost of AI in terms of the compute, training the LLM is very high. So we look at it from AWS to support startups on three primary pillars. So one is the financial support. So at AWS, we have something called as AWS Activate, which is a startup support program. Depending on the maturity of the startup, the use case, we provide funding up till $100,000 to startups across India. That's the financial part. But startups also need a lot of technical tool sets and services, especially in the field of edge AI. Like I mentioned earlier, there are tool sets like IoT Greengrass, SageMaker, Bedrock, which help startups to accelerate their development cycle using automation. Something like Kiro or agentic AI code developer. This also enables startups to accelerate their development lifecycle and also build LLMs much faster. The last pillar, which is also very important, is giving access to the startups to the AWS expert ecosystem, as well as enabling connect to investors and industry leaders, where they can not just validate the use cases but also get a faster GTM to the market. So that way, we try to support startups on all the three aspects: financial support, technical support, as well as ecosystem access.
All right, thanks, Shrikant. I think I now move to somebody who provides a lifeline to, or like the pipeline to helping build scale in the edge AI solution, which is the telcos. They have a very important role in building that scale. So, Abhishek, how are you leveraging the networking and the cloud infrastructure and cloud partnerships and enterprise relationships to deploy edge AI solutions across multiple channels and use cases across agriculture, across logistics, healthcare, and so on and so forth?
So I think just follow up on the previous conversation, right? If you look at the way the current cloud sandwich is created, you've connectivity at the bottom. You have what you call IaaS, which is I don't need to care about what hardware I'm on. Someone has always provided that to me. And then what the hyperscalers have gone ahead and done is they've created what we call PaaS services, which is for anyone who wants to come and drop their software. Can I get hardware on demand? Can I get services on demand? I can just pull this up, and my job is then only to figure out how to write the good code to support the business use case. I think in the edge space, we all have to wear these hats and come together as an ecosystem to provide what we call will be the future marketplace of services, right? I do feel the onus on providing connectivity as well as the edge infrastructure really should be largely driven by telcos, either themselves or through partnerships. Because if you look at distributed infrastructure, a telco would naturally fit in that space of being available in hundreds of thousands of locations, right? The second is engineering companies, hardware manufacturers tweaking their products and making services available, which can then be pulled, right? And the idea is, can we encourage younger startups like Shrikant mentioned it? Can we give them services on consumption rather than really going and incurring big costs upfront, right? And Shrikant mentioned they're happy to distribute, like when they're happy to also look at cash flow funding, right, in the beginning. I think the idea is, can we really create a fillip in younger startups coming onto a marketplace with this stitch of partners? I mean, at least that's the vision that we have, saying what can we do in collaboration with a lot of partners, right? And here we've been happy to pull in our partnership relationships with with hardware manufacturers, with telecom product manufacturers, with infrastructure manufacturers, right? And you go across. You need to go buy compute from somewhere. You need to buy storage from somewhere. You need to buy the software licensing from places. So we've actually literally leveraged a lot of these for the early use cases that we've seen happen, right? And I still call them early because I'm seeing good POCs. I'm not yet seeing millions of dollars of value being generated from this. So I think from my point of view, I would still continue to invest in creating the ecosystem, at least for the next 7 to 8 quarters, and then really see how some of these early germinations really then get revenue back. So I would say let's continue investing into creating the ecosystem today.
All right. And so maybe I'll get some comments both from Sumit and Abhishek. Having understood the compelling case that the ecosystem is being created in slowly but steadily, having understood what the startups bring on the table, right, both from an engineering standpoint and the support that they're getting from an entrepreneurial standpoint, how do we bring all this collaboration to life? And you are obviously playing an important cog in the wheel from a hardware standpoint. So, what are the potential avenues to enable all of this collaboration to come and at a scalable level?
Yeah, so I think that's a very good question, and we are addressing this for the last few years on this because I think Amitabh rightly said the bigger problem right now is the standardization. Everybody have their own software models, own data formats, own SDKs like that. So first thing what we did is that can you create a standardized software platform? So Qualcomm, we created something called Qualcomm AI Hub. You just go there and say that, hey, this is the, let's say, going back to the same example, my use case is only the translation. What are the different models available? Then you say that I want to put it in a laptop, I want to put it in a IoT device, or I want to put it in a cell phone, and this is my architecture. You can download and you can start going. So this is one. Second thing is that now I solved that problem. Next thing is that how do I ensure that everybody getting that skill of creating a new AI model and developing the edge AI side. So what we started doing in Qualcomm India is that we started partnering with various educational institute, and we started giving Qualcomm reference design boards. So we have boards at a various kind of AI horsepower in it. Some of the example like very low level use cases, you need sub 10 tops kind of AI power is good enough. If you go a little bit of complicated use cases, you need maybe 10, above 10 to 40, 50, that kind of use cases, and then further you go up. So we started giving these boards where the software model is running and people can start playing with it. With that, we solve the education problem. Like, so the MTech student, PhD student, they can get educated and start thinking, start innovating on the platforms. When it comes to the startup, now what do we do on that? So here we felt that all these big MNCs or the big houses, they can be the big brother or sister to the startups. And we launched certain programs in Qualcomm where we provide that opportunity of mentorship. That mentorship could be providing technical help, providing like, I want to bring this particular use case, I want to realize in this platform, I need some technical guidance. We provide that guidance. In the semiconductor side also, that I want to design a new chip, which is very low end, maybe the camera detection. I want to design a new chip. Can I get something, some help from that? We provide that semiconductor side as well as system side of it, right? So we launched few programs where the startups can apply. We run more like a competition way, and whoever wins that, they get a mentorship as well as funding on that. We help them for the GTM strategies on that. We help them with the people strategy, sales strategy, and so on, right? In fact, if you visit the Qualcomm booth, you can see some of them are present and they are showcasing those startups are there. So this is the role we are playing. I think this is the place where we all need to come together and we need to help each other on that. And in this panel, you can see that there are software experts, there are hardware companies, there are telecom operators, all need to come together on that to develop the ecosystem in India. And I'm sure that everybody doing this, and this is the bit what we are doing as Qualcomm, providing hardware and software solution, all the way from the educational institute to the startups.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Sumit. Want to comment on it, Abhishek?
So I have two things that I think we should lean in more on, right? One is work with hardware manufacturers on certification so that we can ensure connectivity is top notch. Right? We'll need a bit of tweaking on devices as well as connectors, and we should do that, right? So that's one thing. And there, we are happy to, and we've in the past opened up our lab to say, can we pre-certify you? Can we work with you to make sure that the connectivity is robust? So that's one. I think on the second, and someone mentioned QoS, right? How open can we be to actually providing what we call network APIs to developers to start making decisions on their own rather than selling a subscription model? See, I think we've created immense value for ourselves by selling subscription models. Right? The world of tomorrow is where the devices and the machines need to make choices on the way the connectivity is being offered to them, which means they need this more granular, they want to make changes on their own, right? I think network APIs is the way to do it, where each device, each machine can make its decision on what quality of service at what point of time do they want, right? And I'll give you a very interesting example. I was talking to a startup who said, I will bring down the cost of CDN. I said, okay, how would you do that? Usually people choose, what quality of service to offer. So if you're trying to watch a movie on a phone, when you're traveling, your service quality drops, right? They drop the bitrate, and you can't see this as well. This guy said, why can't I drop the bitrate when the movies has a boring scene versus when there's an action sequence that's going on where I will give you much better quality, right? It's very intuitive. Saying when you're seeing an action scene, you don't want pixelization, but when you're seeing a boring part, you're seeing an ad, you'll drop the bitrate, right? And we don't think like this. This is where you need the startup guys to come think and make those decisions and innovate, whether it's to bring cost down or improve experience, right? I think we have to become open to letting the ecosystem really innovate, because the five of us will have to go back to our day jobs to say we have our businesses to run, and we are larger companies to change, right? We have to get nimble at the edge for startups to make decisions on their own, and we have to open up our houses for them. So I think that's the vision that we have on the space.
Thank you so much. I think we've covered a lot of ground in two themes, from capacity to capability to connectivity to collaboration. A lot of that has been covered, but all of this comes with responsible growth, right? We have to talk, when you're talking about AI, ethics, return on investment, all of that is very front and center. And I thought that takes me to the third theme, which is around policy, ethics, workforce readiness, and a lot more. So let me start, and maybe we can keep this a little bit quicker so we can get to some audience questions as well. And the first question again is to Abhishek on policy readiness. I mean, we all know that policy frameworks are important to drive social responsibility and to scale responsibility. What changes do you believe are necessary from a regulatory standpoint, or what incentives would help accelerate adoption of Edge AI?
You have to ask the telecom person the regulation question
Okay,
always.
so
Right?
maybe we
No,
can-
I'll at least give you my point of view on this. See, I think we want acceleration in thinking and development, right? And there I would say, let industries self-regulate so that we don't anchor them down and slow progress. So that's one piece there that I do think is important. I think the bigger goal and long-term protection is important, and their sovereignty comes into play, right? So there should be horizontal regulation, which is future protection for us. And I think there, for me, the one piece which I would recommend is don't lose on sovereignty. Having data in AI, having no control plane outside India, having the control in country is something that we should really go deep in. Right? But don't stop progress, because when you put a lot of constraints, progress comes, but then it comes at a cost. Right? Start with self-regulation. and then evolve the regulation in a way that it makes sense when you want to scale. So that's, at least those are two axes that I would look at.
Okay. And then when we're talking about employee readiness, I think that's important to really realize the demographic dividend in this space. So, from a readiness, employee readiness in terms of training infrastructure, on skill set development, what are some of the critical elements that are needed to prepare our engineers, our developers, our technicians? Sumit, you want to shed some light on that?
Yeah, so I think again the left shifting need to happen, right? So today, if you look at all the tier one engineering colleges in India, they have actually started modifying the courses. Now AI is very much part of it. How to develop new models, and actually what required is that how to make the new young engineers ready for industry. I think that's what is the key theme. So what we need to do is that, and that's what we are doing also, working with certain professors and developing the courseware on that. Second thing, what I think we should need to do is that go and reach out to not only tier one, but tier two, tier three colleges and build the linkages with the industry and tell them that this is exactly the problem statement I want you to solve and this is the necessary help I'm providing you to solve that. So that sort of mentorship is very much key. Once you see more and more resources coming out and more people are a lot more skilled to do that, your getting somebody fresh out of college coming up with new ideas, new use case, and realize the use case will be much more faster. I think we should need to focus on that aspect a lot more.
Okay. And coming to the third dimension, which is on ROI, because that's a critical element of enterprise decision making. So, Shrikant, question to you is that as you look at use cases, as you look at pilots, how are you looking at all of that dovetailing into realizing the real value, which is the return on investment on some of that?
So actually, I think just yesterday I read an interesting article in the Economic Times. There's a number which stuck to my mind. It says 40% of agentic AI use cases or projects will close by 2027. So while ROI is important, another metric which goes hand in hand is the cost of experiment. So it's a new domain. We all know that agentic AI or edge AI, the use cases are currently in experimentation mode. So I look at it at three axes, which are very important. One is when you are identifying the use cases, the focus needs to be really on the high impact, high ROI use cases. Okay, so force fitting use cases will not lead to success. Identifying the right use cases where edge AI is really important in terms of latency, in terms of throughput, in terms of real time response is extremely critical. The second part is defining the finances metrics. So it's not just the cost of implementation, but it is also factors like whether it's contributing to my business continuity, whether it is contributing to my risk reduction. Identifying those factors also become a part of the ROI along with the monetary aspect. The third part, and which is also important, is how scalable my use cases are. So if I am able to build a use case successful in one factory, can I scale it up to my countrywide factories? Can I scale it up across my entire organization? That's where the real ROI comes in. So these three important factors are very important to take care of your ROI as well as your cost of experimentation.
Great, thanks. Very good points. And it's not just about monetary ROI, there are several other dimensions to be looked at. Farjola, from your standpoint, you've been sort of in your role, vantage point, looking at things from a global perspective. So, can you comment on any best practices that you see around the world in terms of accountability, in terms of transparency, in terms of driving this whole agenda of responsible growth in context of AGI?
I think it's been a topic for many years on a global agenda. Definitely, I think we are looking at AI principles and responsible AI. I think in Europe we have signed certain regulations. From early on, it started with the data privacy and the GDPR, and now it's transformed into quite quite lengthy, complex as well at this point, I think, when it comes to responsible AI. But it is necessary, I would say. And of course, in the US, we also have another protocol. So I think it's important that now when I look into Southeast Asia and this part of the market, it's being revised and taken as a best practice, but also to make it comprehensive and transparent. So it's definitely we're going through a journey. I don't think we are kind of set on it, to be quite honest. I think, of course, in Europe, we have taken a stance, US the same. I think here we're trying to see what to apply in terms of responsible and ethical AI from that point of view. So it's an ongoing journey. It's a bit of a mix of engineering and human sciences and law. I think it's the intersection of the three.
Right. Thank you. I'm conscious of time, and I know that this is a journey that we are all going through. This is all we've covered a lot of ground on how AGI needs to be built, scaled, and governed. And we've also covered several dimensions today. Clearly, the next breakthrough will come from unexpected places, as I believe. It will come from startups in tier 2, tier 3 cities, farmers using powered sensors, or enterprises reimagining their operations. Before we get to the audience, maybe I'll ask one quick open question to all of you. And this is not something that you prepared for, so it'll be good to get some candid answer. If there was one real world edge AI use case, either in India or globally, that you believe will scale rapidly in the next 2 years, what will that be?
I think we started with that. So India is a country, got a lot of language, a lot of cultures. Any translation work will definitely help. Think about a North India person go to South India and easily communicate to the person who is bottom of the value chain easily, interact easily. That solves and cuts a lot of barrier the way we interact. So I think if we have an affordable solution in India on AGI on that side, will definitely be super helpful.
All right. Thank you so much. Shrikant?
I think the answer lies in the title of today's session. So we are an agricultural country, and if we are able to give the power of AGI to our farmers, the
Right.
impact will be really high, both in terms of the social impact as well as the consumer impact. So that's a huge use case in my opinion.
Okay, great. Excellent. Farjola?
I would say, I mean, it's an excellent question. I love it really, because when it comes to India, I think anything and everything is possible. That's why I love this country, actually. I really do. And when you look into how you transformed and built the whole digital identity stack during COVID, it's impressive how you really embrace the open source and really build it and made it their own. So I think when we look into Edge AI, I definitely see that that's an opportunity for India to make it happen. And if I were to think about the logistics, I think it's impressive to be able to get a package in 15 minutes. I mean, how is that even possible, right? So for me, that's right there. So I think when it comes to India, you have a big influence into how to make, to really embrace the common frameworks and really make this from pilots to scale. Because while we see examples actually worldwide, they're pretty new actually. It's a very hot IPR area at the moment. So yeah, I look forward to see what the next example would be.
Abhishek?
I think for me, the one that's close to my heart is healthcare. I think if we can really, and we are a very large, undersolved economy for healthcare. I think that's the piece that I would really like to see a solution on, and cost is a big problem, but if we can bring down cost, right, and we can provide healthcare at the edge, including something like a wearable that can really tell you when you have to take a critical decision in your life. I think that's something that I would want to look for.
Excellent. Final views?
I heard a lot about India's industrial growth and self-reliant India and everything. And considering the key aspects of AGI, low latencies and fast and cheap, I think industrial automation, it can play a huge role, in India, and certainly India has to compete with China. So this is the next step we can take in industrialization, factory automation. That area, it's a huge potential.
So that was great. No global use cases. It was all happening in India.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to move this back to the floor for any questions from the floor. Yes, please. Let me have the mic, please. Maybe we can take a couple of questions. I'm, conscious of time.
My question is very specific that we have been talking about edge AI. And but at this point in time, AI is predominantly driven by all the large language models, and all the use case that we are kind of looking at are driven from LLMs, which are at the end of the day are not typical use case of edge AI. Where I have seen edge AI kind of being used very significantly is in areas like, say, for example, drone, etc. So what's your take that in true sense, can AI actually reside without, say, for example, a cloud interface being in between? Yeah, that's my question.
Sumit, you like to take that?
Yeah, so in my opening speech, that's what we are saying, and that's precisely what we are working on. Without going to cloud, without having connection, can I run AI models on a device? Like example, you talked about the drone. Can I run in drone without having any connectivity to the cloud? Answer is yes, and that's what we're innovating, right? Today, there are tons of devices available in the market where if you turn off all the connectivity methods like Wi-Fi or 5G or anything, still you can run the AI model on that. Like I was telling that in that the glass is coming in, so few million parameter model can run on that, the next generation thing. Or my phone can run up to tens of billions of parameter model in an airplane mode. That precisely you were asking. So yes, we all are innovating towards that, and that is happening as we speak.
Okay, one question, final question. This
Yeah.
side.
So I'll start with a statement saying edge AI is expensive. And historically, we have seen like the moment ChatGPT became affordable to people, collective intelligence of people came in, and we have seen very great use cases. So, question to the panel is how we can make edge AI more affordable and make the end user more, knowledgeable and aware.
Um, anybody else wants to take it up?
Okay, maybe I'll start and then
Yeah,
let
yeah.
other panelists to come in. So I think that when you say about the affordability, the first thing is that getting the cost down. Of course, that's what the first thing we say, right? Once you get the cost down, that means with the lower horsepower, better models need to run, and that precisely need a lot of hardware, software co-innovation required, right? Amitabh was talking about the small language model. You can see that we can take bigger model, optimize and run on the lower horsepower devices. And that devices need to be a lot more smarter in terms of the processing capabilities and in terms of the power consumption and the thermal envelope, right? So there are a lot of innovations going on that front, and that's something is the way, we are trying it out.
Okay, one final question. Oh, sorry. You want to comment? Anything else? Okay, one final question. Okay, yes. Or I think we'll run out of time. Maybe, okay, we'll just take one more after this and then finally we close. Yeah.
So my question is that why don't you make like your models open source? Like much of your AI is already training on open source, but not much of the enterprise code is available to the coders, and no reliable SDKs are there for generating AI models and getting those node values.
I'm not sure if I understand the question correctly. I'll just repeat it to be sure. So your question is why AI
Is
is not
not
open source?
like the enterprise code is not open source. Like there are many open source AI models on Hugging Face if you can see that, but the like Qualcomm model or like Ericsson model is not available on the public domain. So I want to know why there are no developer side covered for by the companies.
Okay, so I'll answer from an AWS point of view. So like you rightly said, a lot of the open source LLMs are available, and it is up to an enterprise to leverage it, train it on their data, and leverage it for their use cases. Uh, in my opinion, this becomes an enterprise secret sauce. So they want to keep that data with them and ensure that the value of that is derived by that enterprise. Now, when it comes to a larger open ecosystem, use cases around healthcare or farming, where the benefit is to the larger audience, I think there the open source use cases, open source models are easily available, and the SDKs are also there. So if you have some specific use case, then I can probably comment on that.
Hello.
Since you talked about Qualcomm, let me answer that also. So actually today, there are AI marketplace. There are actually the model marketplace. You can look at Hugging Face, you will get a lot of models over there. Qualcomm, we have Qualcomm AI Hub. If you go there, if you tell this is particular use case I have, that could be computer vision, that could be language translation, could be anything else. You can say that this is the use case I'm looking at. What model available, you can easily search, you can download, you can write some 15, 20 lines of Python code around it to wrap this up, and then you can start running. Now you can kind of train it based on your need and you can play with it, right? So there are marketplaces available where all the big companies are contributing the models, and those are kind of getting open source on that.
Sorry, I'll have to bring this to a close now. We're running out of time, so I want to thank all my panelists for a very rich and an insightful discussion. Thank you for making a tax professional a lot more learned. That's the best way to moderate the session. You get to know a lot. My takeaways is that it's definitely edge AI is a business imperative, right? There's no denying faster decision, lower costs, and smarter operations. India's advantage lies in scale and adaptability, which we've seen across various the entire ecosystem. It's critical to invest and invest early, whether it's infrastructure, whether it's in partnerships, or whether it's in talent. Our panel has showed that India has a talent, has a vision, has a collaborative spirit to lead this revolution. Our story is one of inventiveness and partnerships where startups, telcos, cloud providers, and hardware innovators come together to solve for India and scale for the world. With it, no, with that ambition, no corner is left behind, from the smallest farm to the largest factory. We have the opportunity to build a digital future where edge AI becomes the heartbeat of India's next $1 trillion opportunity. So thank you all, the rest of the India Mobile Congress.